Hi, this is Brett McDonald, instructor for Introduction to Meteorology at Central Wyoming College. Today, I'm going to narrate the presentation on helping to draw isobars. So, as we get into meteorological data, weather data, the first thing that we typically will look at is surface pressure. And we want to draw maps of the surface pressure so that we can understand the patterns where the highs and the lows are at and that. So the key to that is drawing isobars. And an isobar is a line of constant pressure. Um, for those of us who live in Wyoming or in the western US, we're very familiar with what a contour is because we see them on topography maps all the time. So just think of an isobar. Instead of being a line of constant elevation, it's a line of constant pressure. So as we draw these lines, we're not going to draw it for every single millibar, which is what the measurement of air pressure is in. We're going to draw it every 4 millibars. And the typical increments that are done are shown here on this slide. So the easiest to remember is if you start at 1,000, then you can go either side and do it every 4. It makes it a lot easier that way. So let's get started. So here's a figure that's very similar to figure 1 in investigation 1B. This is actually from a previous year. We'll show the one this year in a little bit, but we're going to start off just doing this one. So this is over the eastern US, and it's got a bunch of station pressures listed. You can see like Little Rock, Arkansas here is 1,015. Let's see, out here on the edge of North Carolina is 1,023. And there are some contours already drawn. So here's the 1020 contour. It makes it really easy when the stations are actually that value. It's kind of like connect the dots. But at other times, you have to kind of interpolate in between stations. Like these two, Washington, D.C. is 1019, and this one down here in Virginia is 1022. So you can imagine the 1020 going somewhere in between. So this 1020 is drawn here. You've got a 1016 that's drawn just across Florida and another 1016 here in Texas. You'll notice that these are open-ended because we don't have data over the Gulf of Mexico in order to complete that contour. We don't know what it is. So it's best just to do it over where you have the data at. As you get started, the easiest thing to do is to identify where the highest and the lowest pressures are at. So in this case, if we look, Chicago's got 998, and that station out over the Outer Banks is 1023. And so you want to start off by doing this on almost every map. And sometimes you can have several different areas of low pressure depending upon the size of your map, as well as peaks of high pressure. So on the map, what you want to do is put an L over where the low pressure is at and an H where the high pressure is at. So you can kind of get a sense of their relationships. And then what we want to do is we want to get started with the contours. Again, the 1020 is drawn here, the 1016 is down here, and also a 1016 over here. But there's likely going to be another 1016 that's drawn next to this. So let's advance forward here. Oh, actually, I went backwards. Let's start around the low. You'll remember that it was at 998. So that means that there's going to be 1,000 contour. So there are some sites here that have exactly 1,000 for their station pressure. And then if we draw it kind of elongated to capture this one over central Illinois, you'll see that the 1,000 we can kind of close off here around Chicago. So the next one would be 1,004. And that one, again, goes out. I'm interpolating in between. Kind of tough here, interpolating between 1,000 and 1,016 up here at Duluth, Minnesota. So you're just kind of estimating where you think that 1,004 might be. Don't forget to label your lines so that you can see what they are. And so then we're just going to keep going. So we got the 1,004 drawn. We do the 1,008 and the 1,012. And lastly, we draw 1016, which extends all the way up from New England down even into southern Mississippi area and then back up into the plains. And that completes everything along with the other lines that we have. So that gives you a good sense of the pattern with the high and the low. One of the cool things then is that you can look at the how closely spaced the patterns are, the contours are. So just like on a topography map, when the lines are closer together, the contours, it means that the slope is steeper. Same thing can be thought of with air pressure lines. So in the areas where they're closer, you can think of it as being rather steep. And then when the contours are farther apart, you can think of the slope as not flat, but obviously more relaxed. And you'll notice that typically that around high pressure systems, the slopes will be flatter, whereas when you get in around the low pressure systems, they'll be tighter together. And there is a very direct relationship between the tightness of the contours and the wind speed that you'll learn about in a little bit. So here's the figure 1 of investigation 1B, and this is the one that you're going to want to draw the contours of. Now in this one, we've already got the 1004 through Maine, the 1008 through New Hampshire, and up here. So what's going to be the next one? It's going to be 1012. I'm not able to draw that here, but hopefully you're seeing my cursor. And so I would kind of estimate that to go up here, like maybe through Rhode Island. It's going to have to go between these two and then up. So it's going to be actually rather tight through this way. And then on 1016, 1020. Oh, we didn't identify where the low and the high pressures are at. Well, this one in northern Maine, 1001, that's our lowest pressure. Looking out here, I see there's a 1026 up here at Cleveland, but there's also a 1027 down here over Florida with lower amounts in between. So it looks like the gradient or the relationship between the contours is rather flat throughout this whole area. So it might be a little bit difficult, but give it your best shot. Then you can move on in current weather study 1 and do the same thing with the whole country. And you'll notice again that there's a couple of lines that are already drawn for you. And then you can keep doing them and answer the questions. Good luck. Have fun.